You won't believe what just unfolded live on national television. With what seemed like an innocent question, Joy Behar unintentionally cornered herself, but no one could have predicted Karoline Leavitt's lightning-fast comeback that would leave the entire studio in stunned silence. This jaw-dropping moment has America buzzing, and it all began with a single question. Before diving into the full story, drop a comment with where you're watching from. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you stay updated on powerful moments. Like this. Karoline Leavitt walked onto the set of The View, with stage lights reflecting off her blonde hair. But the sharp intensity in her gaze eclipsed any spotlight. At that very moment, the entire room seemed to freeze. A few awkward claps trickled in. Some audience members whispered. Others stared at her with a mix of intrigue and suspicion. The tension was palpable. It felt less like a studio and more like a verbal battlefield. At the host's table, Joy Behar leaned back with a knowing smirk, as if she were preparing for a live takedown. Whoopi Goldberg sat next to her, arms crossed, watching with skepticism. Sunny Hostin clutched a pen, studying Leavitt like a prosecutor observing a witness. Alyssa Farah Griffin, a former White House staffer herself, looked at Leavitt with a neutral expression, somewhere between sympathetic and analytical. Before stepping onto the stage, a crew member had whispered to her, "They'll try to twist your words, especially Behar. Don't flinch." Leavitt had only nodded. She knew her position. This wasn't just a talk show appearance. It was a frontline clash in a war of narratives. And she wasn't standing there for herself alone, but for Donald Trump and the millions listening closely to her every word. Whoopi Goldberg was the first to speak. Her tone was gentle and composed, trying to set a casual tone. "Karoline, you're the youngest press secretary in U.S. history. What's it like being the go-between for President Trump and the press?" Leavitt tilted her head slightly, her demeanor calm and composed. "It's an honor. President Trump trusts me to speak truthfully on his behalf. I serve the American people, not the media." A murmur spread through the audience. Some nodded. Others exchanged skeptical looks. The tension began to build. Sunny Hostin jumped in, her question edged with confrontation. "Trump's new immigration policy has thrown millions into turmoil. Do you think that's fair?" Leavitt's eyes locked onto Sunny's. Her tone was assertive. "Fairness is about protecting American jobs. Illegal immigration costs us over $150 billion each year. President Trump unapologetically puts America first, and I stand with that." Each word struck firmly. Sunny arched an eyebrow, scribbling on her notepad. Applause broke out here and there, but Leavitt could still feel Behar's gaze, calculating, intense. Alyssa Farah Griffin chimed in with a gentler question. "You're young, a mom. How do you manage the stress of serving in the White House?" For the first time, Leavitt smiled warmly. "My family grounds me. My husband is my rock, and I do this for our child, and every American family's future." Alyssa nodded, seeming satisfied. But Behar interrupted with a mocking tone. "How sweet. But let's be honest. Isn't this just about airtime and getting famous?" Laughter broke out in the studio, but Leavitt didn't blink. She stared directly at Behar, eyes narrowing. "Joy, I'm not here to be a star. I'm here to correct the record that shows like The View distort, creating division and misleading the public." A stunned silence took over, followed by both applause and whistles of disapproval. Behar was momentarily caught off guard, but quickly masked her surprise, Whoopi tried to step in. Okay, let's take it down a notch. But Leavitt knew the heat had only just begun. Behar leaned forward, her smile now icy. You talk about truth. How do you justify defending someone like Trump, who thrives on controversy? Leavitt responded without hesitation. President Trump voices what many Americans believe. It's the media that twists his words into why. Scandal. My job is to deliver clarity, not chaos. Sonny jumped in again. But don't you think Trump's words can be a little extreme? Leavitt shook her head. What's extreme is the media demonizing a president who prioritizes Americans. Look at the results. Millions of jobs, a booming economy. That's what matters. The hosts started circling in tighter, each question another test. Leavitt's heartbeat quickened, but her expression remained composed. She sensed Behar was waiting, preparing her final strike. Still, the other hosts pressed on. Alyssa once again spoke, this time her voice softer but clearly loaded. Karoline, you're young, a mom, working for one of the most unpredictable leaders ever. How do you handle it? The question masked a trap. Alyssa wasn't just curious, she was searching for weakness. But Leavitt remained poised. Motherhood taught me resilience. I fight for my child, and for all families trying to live the American dream. Serving President Trump helps make that dream real. The room shifted. Some nodded, others whispered. Even Alyssa fell quiet. Sonny stepped in again, lawyer-like. Let's talk policy. Trump brags about tax cuts, but many say they favored the wealthy. How do you defend that? Sonny's pen hovered, waiting for a slip-up. Leavitt's response was direct. Facts don't lie, Sonny. Our tax reforms saved 10 million middle-class families an average of $2,000 per year. That money matters. To buy food, school supplies, or take a family trip. The rich still pay, but our focus is on working Americans. Her words were crisp, decisive. Sonny looked surprised and paused her writing. But Behar wasn't finished. She leaned back, eyes gleaming. It all sounds lovely, Karoline. But let's face it, Trump's midnight tweets attacking celebrities isn't working for him asa. Nightmare? Laughter erupted again. Behar had painted Leavitt as someone following chaos blindly. Leavitt's grip tightened subtly. Her smile held firm. President Trump leads boldly. He says what Americans feel. I'm here to ensure that message cuts through the media's noise. The audience roared, both cheers and protests. Behar seemed surprised, but only briefly. You're confident, I'll give you that, she said, a subtle jab beneath the compliment. Whoopi raised her hand. All right, let's all breathe, she said, her voice balancing firmness and humor. But Leavitt could feel the storm brewing. Sonny tried a gentler approach. Karoline, many say Trump's policies divide the country. What's your role in bringing people together? Leavitt seized the chance. We unite by facing real issues, creating jobs, enhancing safety, opening doors. Trump brings people together through results, not rhetoric. The audience erupted again. Some cheered, others frowned. Then Behar delivered her hardest blow yet. Her voice slow and sharp. Karoline, you once dreamed of journalism, a truth seeker. So why work for a man who calls the press the enemy? Or is it because, as he often says, you're just a pretty rose? Gasps echoed. Some laughed. Others covered their mouths. The comment cut deep, questioning both Leavitt's integrity and suggesting she was selected for her looks, not her competence. Every eye turned to Karoline. Whoopi frowned slightly but stayed silent. Sunny stopped, writing, her pen frozen mid-air. Karoline Leavitt sat upright, poised, her posture perfect. A faint smile played on her lips, but her eyes stayed piercing, like a fighter who had just defeated her rival. Her words had been a flawless counter to Joy Behar's trap question, completely shifting the energy in the studio. Behar, typically unshaken and sharp-tongued, now sat quietly with her hands clenched, her eyes revealing discomfort. The audience was buzzing, some rising to applaud while others whispered in disbelief at how Leavitt had flipped the narrative to seize control. Whoopi Goldberg, stepping in as the moderator, attempted to bring the energy back to neutral. All right, everyone. Let's breathe a little, she said, her voice walking the line between firm and playful. Her eyes, however, lingered on Behar as if checking whether her co-host was okay. Behar, still trying to collect herself, cleared her throat. Her usual sting was missing when she finally said, "Karoline, you're impressive," though the compliment felt stiff, perhaps reluctantly given. The crowd chuckled softly, but the tension still stretched thin, like a wire about to snap. Sensing the shift in momentum, Sunny Houston changed the subject. "Karoline, let's address Trump's more controversial remarks. Recently, he took a jab at Taylor Swift on social media, calling her self-absorbed. As his press secretary, how do you navigate such situations?" Though the question was less aggressive than Behar's, it still posed a challenge. It tested whether Leavitt could sustain her composure while defending one of Trump's more divisive statements. Leavitt tilted her head slightly, her confidence unshaken. "Sunny, President Trump speaks his mind. That honesty is why millions appreciate him." Regarding Taylor Swift, it was a lighthearted comment that the media exaggerated for drama. "My role is to provide context so people can understand what he really meant," she explained calmly, her tone resembling a teacher offering clarity on a basic concept. Some audience members nodded, others frowned, but all could recognize her poise. Farrah Griffin, a former Trump administration insider, stepped in with another question. "But Karoline, remarks like that risk alienating Swift's fan base and entire voting blocks. Do you ever suggest he dial it back?" Leavitt's smile widened, welcoming yet firm. "I don't try to change President Trump. He is who he is, and that's exactly why his supporters stand by him. My mission is to ensure his message gets out clearly, without the noise of media sensationalism." Her tone, though gentle, held power. The tension in the room seemed to ease just slightly. The crowd broke into applause, and even Alyssa nodded, recognizing Leavitt's measured strength. Behar, clearly determined not to let Leavitt control the narrative entirely, tried again. "You say it's about messaging, but don't Trump's comments, like the one about Swift, damage his image?" Her tone had lost some of its earlier edge, but still carried a probing intent, looking for a crack in Leavitt's armor. The room quieted, anticipating the next reply. Leavitt met her gaze, unwavering. "Joy, President Trump's image is defined by his actions, boosting employment, enhancing national security, and supporting American families. A remark about a celebrity doesn't erase any of that. If the media focused more on policy accomplishments rather than gossip, perhaps Americans would be better informed." Her words hit home. Behar was left speechless, visibly stunned. The audience erupted, clapping loudly, some even chanting Leavitt's name. Seeing the segment shift entirely in Leavitt's favor, Whoopi moved to conclude the discussion. "Well, that was one heated exchange," she said with a smile, trying to diffuse the intensity. But Leavitt wasn't done. With her signature grin, she added, "If The View wants more truth, invite me back. I'll always be ready." The audience roared again, laughter and applause booming through the studio. The hosts exchanged glances, unsure whether they wanted to take that challenge again. Within hours of Leavitt leaving the set, the showdown with Joy Behar exploded online. The clip of her delivering a powerful response while Behar fumbled spread like wildfire. On social platforms, the video amassed millions of views, shares, and comments. Leavitt, once just a young press secretary, now symbolized confidence and grit, her name echoing not only in the U.S., but globally, even reaching as far as China. Meanwhile, Behar and The View found themselves facing backlash. On X, formerly Twitter, a short video capturing Leavitt's takedown of Behar racked up millions of hits. One post read, "Karoline Leavitt just schooled Joy Behar. This is the leadership we need." Another quipped, "Behar tried to corner Karoline and ended up cornering herself." Memes quickly emerged showing Behar speechless, captioned with lines like, "When you plan an ambush but get owned instead." Trump supporters quickly embraced Leavitt as a modern-day warrior, a fearless spokesperson standing up to what they saw as media bias. But the internet wasn't one-sided. Critics accused Leavitt of being overly combative or blindly loyal to Trump. The debate raged on for days, with posts split between admiration and critique. Conservative media jumped in. Fox News highlighted the exchange with headlines like, "Karoline Leavitt destroys Joy Behar on The View," drawing in massive audiences. Commenters praised her with lines like, "She's a new political star," or "Behar picked the wrong opponent." On the other hand, liberal platforms like CNN and MSNBC painted a different picture. A CNN analyst called Leavitt's performance a scripted move to impress MAGA voters, while MSNBC accused her of undermining journalistic integrity. Yet, even the critical coverage only fueled her growing notoriety, keeping her name in the spotlight. On TikTok, the younger audience catapulted her image further. Dramatic edits of her exchange with Behar went viral. One clip, captioned, "When you think you're ready but face Karoline Leavitt," scored over 2 million likes. Young Americans dubbed her the Queen of Clapbacks, making videos inspired by her calm yet fierce manner. Comments praised her as America's fearless girl, highlighting her sharp presence and confident speech. Meanwhile, The View faced mounting pressure. The following day, Behar tried to address the controversy. Standing in front of the audience, she maintained her poise. "Yesterday, we had a very engaging interview with Karoline Leavitt," she began. "But let me say clearly, the free press is a foundation of democracy and will keep asking tough questions." The audience applauded politely, but online, her message was lost in Leavitt's shadow. One user posted, "Behar's trying to clean up, but the internet already declared the winner." The media landscape reacted in full force. Fox News aired entire segments dissecting how Leavitt had taken command of The View's stage. In contrast, outlets like the New York Times and the Washington Post critiqued her for sidestepping real issues and parroting Trump's rhetoric. Still, regardless of opinion, every outlet kept mentioning her, further cementing her place in the public eye. Political pundits started comparing her to past legendary press secretaries, some even forecasting that she might become a major figure in future American politics. But the most profound effect was among Trump's base. Leavitt became a symbol of media resistance, a young woman unafraid to confront mainstream voices. Her face began appearing at Trump rallies with banners reading, "Karoline Leavitt, the voice of truth." Messages poured in from across the country, from small-town moms to entrepreneurs, thanking her for standing firm. One note read, "Karoline speaks for us. She's strong, unwavering." Back at the White House, Leavitt sat behind closed doors, the soft afternoon light casting shadows across her thoughtful face. Her phone buzzed endlessly with messages and mentions, but her smile wasn't for the fame. It came from fulfilling a mission, for giving voice to those who felt ignored. Her duel with Behar wasn't personal. It was a public statement against media distortion. She recalled what Trump told her before the show. "They'll try to shake you, but remember, you're the strongest one in the room." Those words became her armor. Now, as the cameras cooled and the crowd was gone, the weight of her responsibility pressed heavier. Every word she spoke now carried the power to represent not only Trump, but millions of Americans. Her mind wandered briefly to her young son and the nights spent drafting speeches. Could she change how the media was perceived by the public? She believed the answer lay in moments like The View, where she turned confrontation into opportunity. Elsewhere, Joy Behar stood in the dressing room after the follow-up episode. Alone in front of a mirror, she exhaled deeply. "She's sharp," she muttered quietly, not meant for anyone but herself. "But I'll never support Trump." Her pride remained intact, but even she couldn't deny Leavitt's impact. This bout had left its mark. At just 27 years old, Karoline Leavitt showed that youth was not a limitation. She brought something new to politics, authenticity paired with precision. More than a spokesperson, she was a communicator, a storyteller. Her clash with Behar proved one thing: conviction, even when young, can shake even the most established platforms. And as she looked ahead at what came next, Leavitt told herself, "This is just the beginning."